it. I'm gonna just replay the last part. Why not? We're breaking down another dance today, and this time it's going to be the Nicki's Artist of the Month. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, the way Nicki performed this was all on character, swag, and confidence. The choreo itself is not necessarily super hard hitting or there's a bunch of combos here and there. It's the way that he performs it, which I think makes it really entertaining to watch, and which I think people will watch it over and over again. And he's just that good, all right? Anyway, I will be breaking down more dances and dance practices in the future, so don't forget to subscribe, and let's go, baby. So with the Trendsetter section, it's going to be more focused on everybody doing the choreo. It's going to be a lot more loose and groovy, and a little less full out than the humble section.
Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center.
Damn, the musicality too.
No misses, something like fish in a barrel, it's no different. Blindfold on me, I still got the most vision. Trendsetter told them before, but they don't listen. Better.
So I want to point out a certain part of that part of that intro a little bit, where he really follows the way that the artist actually says vision, and this is how he really fills out its textures and actually being patient with the way that the song is. It follows the cadence of the song, and I think that's the reason why I really like this section a lot, is because they're not trying to overdo everything. They're not trying to kill everything, but I want to point this part out where the artist says vision and Nicki really just feels that part out without moving on to the next part right away.
Bullseye, hit it the most, is no misses. Something like fish in a barrel, it's no different.
Right here.
Trendsetter told them before.
I'm gonna play it again just so it's a little easier to point out.
I still got the most vision. Trendsetter told them before, but they don't listen.
And I think what's really good about the way that he performs, I think it's the way that he performs up here, his facials. So if you really pay attention to the way that he performs up here rather than the choreo itself, you're gonna see that his facials are not super flamboyant, but it's very subtle actually. Even though it's subtle, you can really feel the confidence, the swag, and the character that they're trying to exude from him. And so I think that's what really makes this section really stand out to me, is the choreo is not hard hitting. It's not, oh, let's do a bunch of combos, but it's rather being really groovy with it, really following the cadence of the song. But Nicki is really bringing out that character that we need to see, not only from him, but from his dancers as well. His dancers are doing it really. Shout out to the dancers too. This section is, again, more focused on everybody doing the choreo rather than his dancers really trying to highlight him, because we already know that he is the highlight. And then we're gonna go into this section. It really follows the way that he raps, but they also pick and choose when to have these moments, and they're not trying to hit every syllable in the verse.
But every single second, Peter Piper, because I'm bigger. Better, bring a better bad because I'm bigger, better. Solo.
You see how they're more on the loose side, especially using the shoulders right there. So in this part right here, where I think the artist says Peter Piper, something like that, they really follow, or they really use their shoulders here. So right here, they really use their shoulders there to have that looseness, but they also use that moment to actually have that formation change where they kind of go in between the windows to split off.
Came across the competition, hope they get the message. Look, living it fast, been in my eminent bag. I never go slow, thinking I'll crash. End up a thing in the past, they know I won't though. Big fish.
And so that moment right there where the artist is actually rapping really fast is probably my favorite moment of this section, is because he raps a lot faster, but you'll see that they don't really change the speed of the choreo, but they actually pick and choose when to have the moment in the piece. So we're gonna go and start all over for this part right here. He's really in that character, and that really follows the musicality of the song, especially on that part where they go on their heels and they stop a little and they do a pause, and then they go back into the choreo. That's a moment right there.
always showing up.
Again, this last part I think is gonna be more
See the name now,
really on character now.
Price hit the top and it's going up.
And like I said, it's just the way that he's really performing up here is what I think is really making this artist of the month just stand out for me.
See the name now and they know what's up.
I don't know if y'all saw the little smirk when he did that. That's a moment too. And I don't know if y'all heard that musicality. He hits these hi-hats or these little ticking noises in the song when he like kind of swipes his hand like this. That's so subtle, but like if you pick it up, you're like, damn. Yeah, again, the whole theme of this is really, I think, in my opinion, his character and his confidence. And here's the part, man. This intro is just too good.
You gotta see this.
Love the way that they started that too. So his facials are still pretty much very similar to the first section, but you can see that he's doing a little bit more now, right, with his facials. So in the humble section, it's gonna be now a little bit more full out because, well, I think they chose to be a little bit more full out for this section. But what you're gonna see now is that I want to point out the dancers. So the dancers will be doing more accent choreo to actually highlight Nicki here. And so between the Trendsetter and the humble section, those are the two main differences that I actually want to point out, is that they're in the humble section, the dancers will go ahead and do a lot more choreo that's a little bit different from Nicki, so that way it highlights him even more in this section. And I'm gonna just start all over from the very beginning, just so it's like, because it's so good,
You gotta see this.
And there's a lot more bounce in this as well. Both sections are actually very bouncy, but I think I would argue this one has a little bit more bounce.
My left stroke just went viral. Show me something natural like Afro with your pride.
He really smirks a lot. He really has this like way of performing with his eyes.
This is way too crazy. You do not amaze me. I blew cool from ACA.
So the way that he performs with his eyes, I also think really highlights his facials. If you really want to play around with how you perform up here, I think really using your eyes and your eyebrows actually help out a lot. You don't have to be opening your mouth all the time or doing some crazy shit. I think it's really the subtle things that make facials a lot more enjoyable for me when I watch people dance. I really like this part right here with the column that they use to kind of go out. So this transition right here. So after right here, it's a crazy transition. And like I said earlier, with the whole accent choreo, you'll see that the 3 or the 6 dancers that are on the sides are just doing accent choreo to have these 3 move up as they do the choreo. And again, that's what I wanted to point out with the main difference of the two sections. And it's crazy, I've seen a lot of choreography for this song, and most of them do like full out movement, crazy energy. But the way that they approach this was more on the subtle and swag side. God damn. So I'm actually gonna go back before the transition to be humble and sit down. There is a part that I really liked. Right there, watch my soul speak, where he kind of pulls back both of his arms, and then the people or the dancers in the back will actually follow those hands. I'm gonna try to point it out a little bit here, see if I can. Yeah, watch my soul speak. Great way to highlight his hands.
down. Be humble.
So let's actually go back to be humble and sit down. So I'm going to tell you guys why I think this has a great effect for a lot of people that watch this video. So when it transitions into be humble, sit down, we've been getting a lot of like a little bit more full out movements. Everyone's just doing choreo, right? And then we switch off to the chorus where he says be humble, sit down, and there's a transition. So the reason why I think this is such a like good effect, in my opinion, is the way that he's actually being accented. So the way his dancers are actually accenting his little groove. So if you'll notice in this section, he's actually not doing the full out movement. He's doing like the little body rolls, the subtle movements, the pointing, wherever the camera angle changes, right? And if you pay attention to his dancers, they're actually doing like crazy movement to actually contrast his subtle movement. And so that's why I'm going to replay the chorus so that way you guys can see what I mean. This is what makes that moment, I think, the highlight of this video, because there's that contrast.
You let them tell them be humble.
The transition gets me every time. Gets me every time.
Be humble. Tell them sit down.
So I'm gonna go back. I got distracted. My fault, guys.
Tell them be humble.
So here's a little subtle movement, but you see how they're doing a little bit more crazy movement while these things are happening? It's a good contrast for Nicki and the dancers.
Sit down.
Throw that shit. A little bit more full out movement here.
Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
That's another nice effect right there that I want to point out is the hold up part. It's a little harder to see in this video, but I know that there's a dance practice, so I'll be breaking down the dance practices, the dance practice too, because it shows more of a wide view. But I want to point this out right here.
Sit down.
So that entire section where it says hold up, all the dancers will follow each hold up, and it's a catch-up effect basically, but they're all doing different poses until the last two, when Nicki does this controlling movement where I think it's his right arm, and he basically controls the dancers. This is again another great way to use accent choreo to actually have the person in center, which in this case Nicki, to really highlight them.
Be humble. Sit down. Be humble.
And then the textures right there, god damn, dude, I gotta pause again, I'm sorry.
Be humble.
Right here.
Sit down. Be humble.
The patience in that. So right after the hold up, and then they breathe out a little bit until the next part. Ooh. And again, he's like the little smirking that he's doing, the eyebrows, the posture, the smiling, like that's what really makes this stand out for him, because it's just the way that he's performing his facials in this dance is, you could tell that he enjoyed this and he was really comfortable with this. Come on, bro. I'm gonna reset. Fuck it. I'm gonna just replay the last part. Why not?
Sit down.
Why not? He's too good, bro. Bam! That was sick. Y'all know Nicki killed that, and I think with both sections, he really showcased his textures. And while both sections actually shared very similar vibes, I think it still also showed main differences where we can tell that, oh, this section is going to have more, or like the Trendsetter section is going to have a little bit more focus on the choreo, the footwork, and the looseness of the piece, and the cadence of how the artist is rapping as well, right? And then Humble being more based on a little bit more full out, but more focused on the accent choreo where it really highlights Nicki. But I think both sections have their own unique styles while also sharing similar vibes. But yeah, I'm actually gonna break down the dance practice too, because I did watch it already, and it is a little easier to see the effects and formations with that version. So I'm gonna go and break that down and focus on a little bit more on the formation changes and all those other things versus performance here. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed me breaking down an artist of the month, this is my first time actually breaking down artist of the month. I've watched the other ones, but I've never really broken them down. Let me know. And if you guys like ENHYPEN, if you guys like Nikki, don't forget to subscribe. I'm out.